Will you do me a favor and introduce yourself and start?
Thomas Lockwood, from UC San Diego, HiSeasNet project. Is that a sufficient introduction, Brandy?
You guys talking?
Do you want more? Do you want more?
That's it, right?
Yep, that's it. Next slide.
Oh, hang on. Oh, you can't, sorry, can't do that. Somewhere. I might have one too many monitors. Okay.
Not that it won't be a returning theme throughout this whole week, I'm sure, but just wanted to provide upfront acknowledgement and extra thanks to both NSF and ONR that provide the majority of the funding for our project. Without their contribution and ongoing support, none of this would be possible. So a little bit of background. HiSeasNet project is been around for going on 20 years? 21 years.
22.
So almost a drinking age, but primary purpose is to provide internet access on research vessels at sea. We're definitely passionate about providing high performance and highly resilient capabilities to keep those vessels online while underway. Next slide. Okay. So we were originally established back in 2002 and designed specifically to provide connectivity to that fleet. Had our own ground station in San Diego. Pretty much the location that was fairly uniquely situated to provide connectivity both to Pacific-based C-band satellites and Atlantic-based C-band satellites. So we were able to provide coverage for a majority of the areas that the U.S. academic research fleet operated in. Occasionally had to bring in relay stations from other areas of support like Indian Ocean, but by and large we were able to support most of the operating areas just from that San Diego ground station. Pretty much had at its peak 3 different satellites there, or satellite dishes there, 2 C-band based dishes, one providing coverage for the Atlantic Ocean, one for Pacific Ocean, and then a K based dish as well. So in addition to providing the ground station services, another primary focus is the actual antennas on the vessels. So in a lot of cases, purchase of those antennas, working with the operators to get them on the vessels, life cycle management, and ongoing sustainability of those antennas on the vessels. Since 2020, okay. I was like 2020, 2021. We've also taken on responsibility for the secondary satellite system that's on the majority of, that's actually on all the UNOS vessels. And so was originally secondary sat, and we've taken over management of that system as well. Currently, we're also doing that for the U.S. Antarctic program. And we've got a couple other partner projects that we're working with. The Ocean Exploration Trust, they're pretty much getting geo-based services under our contract, but not funded by the academic research fleet. And then we're also working with OET on the upcoming RCRB vessels installation and services on those vessels while they're in their trial phases before they actually become part of the research fleet.
Sorry, do you know where my mouse is?
No, I don't. So current state of the antennas that we have in the fleet. So pretty much from 2020 to present, we've had a real focus on replacement of aging equipment. By and large, for the C-band and KU-based antennas, we've replaced all the antennas in the fleet except on 3 vessels. Endeavor that's someday going to retire. 1 year, until it's 2 years.
Say 1 year for the past 5 years.
Yeah. And then Sally Ride and Neil Armstrong, those are slated to get replaced early next year. Definitely was a lot more complicating factors on those vessels just based on non-usable footprint on those ships and some other logistical issues as far as placement and slight differences in sizes on antennas. And by and large, part of what's facilitated a lot of that equipment replacement was going to a lease model instead of a purchase model, especially for the larger globals and ocean-based ships. Putting it in a recurring budget that we're going to spend X amount every year for antennas is a lot easier to justify and come across than big dollar expenses every 5 to 6 years, even if we are doing it across the whole fleet. I'd say it doesn't come out to roughly the same, but just having that repeatable cost model is easier to justify. So on the oceans and globals, we do use 2 different systems. Each system does have both a high-speed performance component and a kind of backdoor component. For the C-Link systems, we've got an Iridium-based backdoor for managing those systems when they are offline. And then for FX, there's fleet broadband that, if you're really trying to use it these days, is saturated and useless for anything other than VoIP traffic. Yeah, just the onboard phones. And in general, historically, bigger domes have equaled better performance. From a geo standpoint, larger dome, you're using less power to actually get that energy to space and back again than you would for a larger dome. You're going to have to use a lot more frequency and a lot more power to actually get the equivalent data speeds out. So on the larger domes, we've got 4 models in fleet. Most of the larger ships are running 2.4 meter domes, and really have 3 variants of that. On the Intellian side, which we've been installing since 2020, original vessels for the first couple of years, we're getting the first generation of that. Since 2022, we've been deploying the second generation. So Sikuliak, Thompson, and then upcoming Ride and Armstrong all have the Gen 2 version of that dome. Still have 2 7911s out there that are getting very long in the tooth. Those are currently on Ride and Armstrong. Have an older 1.5 meter CTEL dome on Endeavor, and then Atlantic Explorer also has a newer set of 1.5 meter domes from Intellian. Those domes are actually the same ones that are going to be coming in on the upcoming RCRB vessels as well. And then for Fleet Express on the GX side, we've got 3 models in fleet. I think we still have 2 older column Sailor domes out there. One of which is slated to get replaced next year. And looking to do the same for the last remaining one in this academic research fleet. But by and large, most of the vessels are either running Intellian GX100 HPs, and then pretty much anything from 2021 on have been getting the newer version of that. That's a single cable. The NX version of those domes are all low Earth LEO capable, so they can connect to a lot of newer and planned low Earth orbit constellations. In some cases, with swapping out bucks, but currently none of those are being used in that state. And for most of the LEO systems, if you are using a marine stabilized dome, it would require 2 domes, both of them tracking, but when it's doing that jump from one satellite to the other, one's going to jump over. And let's see, we're also doing a pilot for Certus. I mentioned earlier, we've got column Sailor domes on the ceiling side. Most of those are used for out-of-band management. For any of the larger vessels, mostly all globals and some oceans, we've been putting Intellian C700s on board. They're really all the same antenna on the Intellian side, but on a number of them, we've been doing a winterized version that's really an extra dome on top of that with a heater that is mostly for polar code compliance. So extra heater on the dome for a much higher ice rating. And really for this, we're using it more for, gateway of last resort. It's about double the speed of fleet broadband, but you're not going to be pushing a whole lot across it. It's really for emergency communications off the vessel. And just some general notes as far as a lot of our installation standards. We've had a real focus on full sky view and highly available installations on vessels. On the low Earth orbit side, Starlink has definitely been a big player in this scope over the past year. We are funded for a fleet-wide pilot. I'll have more about that later in this presentation, but definitely a little bit of a game changer as far as simplified installation and less moving parts on the ship. So a little bit of a review of kind of where we've come from and where we are. 2020, 2021, a lot of our focus really was replacement of aging domes in the fleet. 2022, we replaced over 17 domes in the fleet. And a lot of what we were seeing, aside from just physical installs on ships, was the amount of expansions we were doing. So kind of vessels coming back into operation, post-COVID shutdowns, was definitely larger requirements for onboard video conferencing, remote science party participation, and by and large, a big bulk of our time was spent just processing expansions for individual vessels, individual cruises.